Hello, here we are at number 8, the last one of the two-part Fantasies by Gastoldi. We're going to look at the tenor parts. It's a little bit more awkward than some of the ones we've done before, largely because it sits lower on the instrument and it's got an F sharp in the key signature, so it sits right round everybody's favourite bit on the tenor of the F sharp back here on the F string, but then needing an E natural on the C string. You just have to see it coming and arrange your fingering accordingly. So we'll cross those bridges when we get to them. Right at the start though, I think you need a 4 on the first D, because you're going to play the first pair of quavers on the same string and then change to the open D string for the second pair of quavers. Does that make sense? Otherwise you end up with a different string for every one of the first 3 quavers, which is just silly. So we'll start on a 4. What else is there in that first section? End of bar 1, my second finger was still down from the first C I played in the bar. So when I came back to it, there it is, look, already in place. 4th finger here, and hold both of those down. This for second and third crotchets of bar 5, the B to the G, and now you can move to half position either on the B or on the G. You have to have got there by the G because you need the 1 for the F sharp coming up, 4 for the E, and I think when you get there, it's really important to hold the 4 on that E for as long as you can. Otherwise, as soon as you've played it and take it off, it just disappears and you've only got 1 note on that string. So leave it down. If you find that the 4 is catching the F string, so the next note you play doesn't speak clearly because this 4 is in the way, have a look at a couple of things. Check that you're right on the end of your 4th finger. You can play on the side of a C string that's nearer the edge of the fingerboard than nearer the F string. You don't need to be plumb in the middle of that string. You can be aiming sort of slightly that side of it to keep out of the way. You do need to be on the end of it, and if you're not, just check where your thumb is at the back, because if your thumb has come up the fingerboard, you'll find that you're having to stretch to reach the 4, and because you're stretching, it's going to be quite flat. But if the thumb and the second finger are opposite, you stand much more chance of being able to play with a rounded 4th finger and therefore keeping out of the way of the F string. So just have a look at that. It should be possible to finger in bar 6 and have both of those fingers down, the 4 and the 2. Let's play from the top then, starting on a 4, starting at the tip of the bow. Not too much bow for the quavers, not too enthusiastic, but similarly, enough to make a generous sound. Here we go. 1, 2. When we go on, we're going to put a 4 again like we did at the beginning, so the first 2 quavers on the same string. I think the only other thing, there's 2 things to think about in there. 12. I played a 4 on that D, I like it. I like to keep the sound the same between the D and the quavers that follow it. Perfectly acceptable though to play that on an open string. Make your choice and write it in so that when you get there you haven't got half your brain thinking, oh, D coming up, am I going to use a 4 or an open string? Just write a number over it so that you don't have to think about it when you get there. And in 13, I play the A with a third finger on the same string as you've played the G before it. End of a phrase, not an important note, doesn't need to be an open string. This is bar 9. Tip of the bow. How much bow do you need for the quavers? Fourth finger. 1, 2. Going on, and I'm going to use a 4 again. Stop there a second because there's quite a bit to think about in here. So starting at 14, I used a fourth finger and I started right at the tip of the bow. And then I played an open A string and used it to shift back into half position. I think in 16 you have to be careful that this little quaver doesn't stick out, and neither does this. Just watch it. They need to be tiny and light. And I think you need a 1 at the beginning of 17. After 1 on the F sharp, I'd be inclined, make sure you don't hear a slide between the two, but I'd be inclined to put a 1 on it, because then you can keep the 1 down, even though the note is shortish and unimportant as a minim, and you need to hear the next start. I think it's worth having the 1 rather than jumping to start it. So then going on, we'll have a 4 in the middle of 17, like we did at the beginning. Use the open A string to shift back half position. Stop the A, 4th finger. At the end of 19. 4 again. 1 on the B. So you've got enough fingers to play the D with a 4. If not in 21, then definitely in 22. Did you get all that? This is the middle of 17. I'll just go through it again. The middle of 17 is going to start on a 4th finger and a forward bow. Shift back on the open string so that the G is a 2. 4. 4 again. Open string and move up. String all that together, shall we? This is 14. 14 starts on a 4 and at the tip. And 1. There's quite a lot to think about in there, isn't there? So first things first, 22, middle of the bar. I think you need to be on a forward bow. So we might just need to cut the minim at the start of that bar. We're a little bit short. The bass part is carrying on. It's clearly the end of a phrase. You can take a breath and restart. I think also, bearing in mind what we've said about starting the quavers at the beginning with a 4 so that we're not always crossing over, I would start the middle of 22 with a 3. So you're playing the A on the F string, and then the open A, and then move back. People often forget there's an A on the F string, and he's very useful. So this is the middle of 22, starting with a third finger. Then move back, so you're in half position. But then, it's the first finger wiggle again. And normally, the first finger wiggle is a bad thing because you end up hearing all sorts of sliding. But I think you need it in 24 to be able to put a 4 in the middle of the bar. So 24 goes 1, 1, and it's a weak second crotchet, isn't it? So just, you don't need to hear the slide. Hold it down. The whole point of that is that you can hold it while you put a 4 in the middle of the bar. Octave leap, absolutely hold the 1 at the bottom. I would put 4 on that, that's the beginning of 28. And I'd put a 4 there as well. Shall we try that together? This is the middle of 22. So we're starting on a forward bow, but we're starting on a third finger on the F string. And 1, 2, 1. Hold the 1 down. There's a couple of little crotchets at the end of that that need to not stick out as well, aren't there? The middle of 29, this F sharp, and this C sharp. If you're not careful because of the way the bowing comes out, just make sure you put plenty into the long minim in 29. Careful of the crotchets, plenty into the minim, careful of the crotchet, and this is just nothing. So you don't need loads of bow for that semi-breve in 30, don't panic, just let it, 31 rather, just let it tail away. I think we should do that again. This is the middle of 22. Middle of 22. And 1. No pressure on that note at all. I've saved it all for this one, and that's just nothing. Let's go on. There's some slightly knotty fingering in here, so you need to start on a 2 in the middle of 32 because of the F sharp. You can play all of that on the F string, can't you? Because you can use a 4 for the A. Now you could do the same here, but then the F, that poor little quaver at the end of the bar, just on its own on the F string is a bit daft. So what I'm going to do in 33, starts with a 2, 4, and then I'm going to bring my 1 up onto the D. 3 for the E, 4 for the F. So it keeps all of those quavers on the C string, but you have to play the first one. You're in half position, aren't you? So you have to play that E with a 4. Move up while you're playing it. 1 on the D. It's much better than flipping across to the F string for 1 little quaver because it's going to go quicker in the end and there won't be time. So we're 34 and we're in first position. On the open C string, move back. 2, 4, 1 for the F sharp. It's just a little bit knotty, isn't it? Needing the F sharp, wanting the F down here as well. Just working out how you're going to get it. So I would use the open C string in the middle of 34 to shift back. I'd be tempted here in 35 to bar the 1 between the B and the G and stop the A with a 3, move back. Does that make sense? Just slightly awkward. Let's do it from the middle of 32. Nice and steady. Starting in half position but ready to move up in the next bar. And 1. Let's just do that again because it's a little bit awkward, isn't it? Same place, middle of 32. And 1. Let's go from the top and play the whole lot through. So starting on a 4, starting at the tip, nice and steady. 1 and 2 and... Really makes you know where the F sharp and the E is, doesn't it, with an assortment of different fingers. Good. I'm going to play the bass part then. You start, so I'm going to count you in. I'll count you 2 bars so we have a really good idea of the speed, and then you kick off. Don't wait for me because you have the first bar on your own. Nice and steady. So I'll count you 2 bars in. 1, 2, 1, 2. How did it go? I think it needs to go a little bit quicker. Maybe not massively, but enough that it just sort of flows a bit. Sort of thing. Should we try it? I'll count you 2 bars in again, and then don't wait for me, just kick off at the beginning. 1, 2, 1, 2.